got a pen or something I can borrow?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. It's the Jimmy Doane Show. Welcome to the show. We do this live, as you can tell. I'm not doing my best Joe Biden impersonation here.
Yeah, right.
We do this live twice a week these days, 4 o'clock New York time, Sundays and Wednesdays, right here on Facebook. You can find us around the web, Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E, use the Jimmy Heart. And I will post a timestamp copy of the show up on YouTube and Twitter later on today. Today is the 21st day. Oh, it's the solstice, right?
Yes.
Longest day or even day, what is it?
Longest.
Longest, yes, of course, I knew that. Whoops. No. Okay. So sorry, I'm doing a couple things here at the same time, and
That's what happens when we don't have a separate producer.
that's it. Kablamo!
Yeah.
So we're here. So, what is happening?
Well, a couple of things real quick. I don't have any information on CHOP.
Okay,
You got something?
I got one little thing.
They have not completely collapsed yet.
Right.
I didn't give them, it's been, what, a week or two? No?
Yeah,
So
but
two?
remember, Occupy Wall Street, I looked it up, lasted 8 months.
Okay.
So, and this is like just a violent Occupy Wall Street kind of thing.
Yeah, but
although they have seen some breakdown. I mean, it's going the course as we predicted.
yeah,
Which
it isn't going. No way it's going to last any 8 months.
No.
No, this all go down. So anyway, I don't have you'll have something on that. And
Yeah.
the only other thing that happened, of course, yesterday was the Tulsa.
the Trump pandemic rally.
The
rally for coronavirus.
Right, the rally, whatever. Well, it was kind of interesting because it was the stadium was like half or three-quarters full.
Yes.
And what they said was, apparently, lots of those million people that signed up for tickets just threw them away.
Well, it wasn't that they threw them away. I mean, it was a scam. I mean,
Right.
There was kids, and I guess a whole bunch of kids on TikTok apparently.
Yeah, and they reserved the tickets and then didn't use them, so
Right.
those seats were empty.
Well, it didn't matter though because there was an unlimited number of tickets available.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, that was it's kind of a funny thing. It's not like they were buying tickets; they're
Right.
free, and it's just an RSVP thing. And there was no way the stadium could hold 1 million people anyway.
Right.
So I mean, everybody knew there was something. Yeah, you had to know there was something weird. And we talked about it last time. We were like, "There's no way 1 million people are planning on going."
Well, as a matter of fact, so few. They had some protesters outside,
Mm-hmm.
and Trump was supposed to give a speech to the outside people, but
Yeah.
they canceled that.
Yeah. Well, they just bring all the people inside.
Right. Well, anyway, right, and it was Ms. Jimmy watched it. She loved it. She went nuts. She thought it was just the greatest speech on the planet. She loves the Trumpster, and so it was a rouser.
Did you watch it?
Yeah. I had to watch
with the toothpicks.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, that's Miss Jimmy says, do you really want to drink?
Sit down.
Sit down. That's right.
It's Father's Day. Sit down.
That's right. So we had that, which of course she's very despondent right now.
Oh yeah.
Well, starting tomorrow, the days get shorter.
Oh right. Yeah.
And she is up. She doesn't like that at all.
No.
She loves the long days, and this business of when they get shorter. And of course, she gets totally depressed around December, when in November we go off
Right.
off saving time into standard time, and what happened? Then it starts to get dark really early or something.
Well, yeah.
And she doesn't like that.
Yeah. And then right now we got sunset at 8:30.
Yeah.
90 degrees.
Yeah, 90
sunlight
degrees.
all
Well,
day.
after November, whenever it is, we have sunset like at 5:30 or 6 or something.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is interesting because we are, we're I don't know how many degrees we are south, but we're not, on the equator. It doesn't matter because it's always 12 and 12.
Yeah. We're 28 degrees up.
Okay, 28 degrees. But if you go much further north, I mean, when I was in Sweden, for instance, when I visited a friend of mine in northern Sweden, which was not above the Arctic Circle at all, but it was a 4-hour day on Christmas.
Yeah, I've heard that they go home at 3 o'clock, the sun sets and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean really.
Yeah, well, we got a little information on Sweden too later on. So
Okay,
got
good.
some new stats.
All right. Well, now the next thing we have here is it has a little bit about the coronavirus, how it's coming along.
Okay.
Big deal, of course. Here in Florida, they had lots of new cases.
Four record days.
Four record days,
which we totally expected.
Right, we so expected. So is there going to be new closings or anything like that? And it appears not.
Right. Well, here's the difference. The difference this time.
Big difference.
Right. And first of all, everybody expected this. This should have happened if coronavirus is even a thing. Then after the protests, here we are. 2.5 weeks later, or whatever it is, and so you would expect this. And as you would expect, it's the age demographic has shifted dramatically towards the younger,
right,
because they were the people out protesting.
Right.
So you got to figure that those two things are related. At least there's strong indications that they are, and so. But the good news is that these are largely asymptomatic people,
right,
people who are not dying,
no,
and there's a good chance that they won't be hospitalized.
No, the hospitals are begging for people to fill up the beds.
Well, there's some reports about that they're full, but I had one of my friends who's an architect who builds hospitals comment that on my Facebook page that. Sure enough, the hospitals are designed to be at maximum capacity, as you would expect.
Right.
And they have overflow capacity, and they can open up new wings and shift things around and stuff, and that's all part of the plan.
2 people in a room.
So anyway, where we will see in another week or two, I guess, if all these people go to the hospital and people start dropping like flies and young people dying and everything, then we're back into pandemic land. But if not, and these people sort of just go home or stay home, and there's not a problem, and people do their masking and whatever they do and social distancing, then in another couple of weeks we may see what we see here now in Sweden, which I hate to burst everybody's bubble. If you're down on Sweden, too bad. Because they kicked its butt, apparently, according to this chart. And who knows? ECDC, whatever, updated. I mean, who knows the validity and who can tell? There's obviously all kinds of questions about what people are dying of, whether they're really dying of this or they're how is it counted? You can see from the numbers. It looks like different countries are counting it differently.
Yeah.
And so I'm not exactly sure what the difference is in Sweden's, how they count, how they report. But according to this graph, Sweden is done with this thing. And that'll be interesting because that was their plan. And if that works, then maybe we can expect that at some point in the not too distant future when the asymptomatic people stop getting tested, and then that basically ends that way too.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
So anyway, it turns out that in rising amid what has happened in Las Vegas, they've re-upped the thing. Apparently they had a spike in Las Vegas, so they've redone a lot of the casinos, and they said they have new rules to help protect the dealers. Mm-hmm. Now, the dealers, of course, all have to wear masks and everything, but they now put up plexiglass shields and all this kind of stuff. I can't imagine playing blackjack, out there now with all this mask business on. They said players will be required to wear a mask at gaming tables where there are no plexiglass partitions. So I thought it was interesting that of course these people, Las Vegas makes its money on group people, 50 people hovering around the craps table and stuff like that. Now, interestingly enough, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has weighed in on Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he said in his U.S. Senate testimony this week. Now, of course, this was his semi-annual, as you know, he's the guy that's head of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
And so he's the guy that prints the money, mm-hmm, and can loosen the thing. And as he said, as we talked about last time, what he said was, nobody has to worry about anything. We'll print all you need.
Right.
And so he called Nevada ground zero for why economic recovery could take years and why the federal government needs to plan on more aid. Mm-hmm. So he's already figured that this recovery, at least in Las Vegas, years out, nothing, the idea that it's going to be over by September, I'm laughing at you.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep printing the money. Nevada has an unemployment rate of 28%, and of course it says businesses that profit from people congregating. He says he believes that there's not going to be a full return of the workforce. They're still going to have a lower number of people. If they work in Nevada in the travel and entertainment industry, they're just not going to be the jobs. Some form of support for these people going forward, in my view, is likely to be appropriate, he testified. So what they're planning on doing is, if you can't get a job in Las Vegas, we're going to pay you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, to me, this is Powell covering his butt.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve chair people going back the last 2 decades or so are going to have to answer some questions, or not. I mean, nobody's going to hold them to account, but this is him out there saying spend, 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 because I think he sees this. There's bad news on the horizon, and
well, a lot of it's by his own creation.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, the problem is, as we've seen, we talked about this a little bit before. Where all that money goes is into the stock market. A lot of it goes into the stock market.
Apparently.
And well, it appears that you can figure it out. It doesn't take long. But the problem is that if people spend the money, that's really not very good, because all that does is to reduce the supply of consumable goods. You have to take the money and invest it in a new plant or machinery or something. If you don't produce the stuff, you can't buy it. And if all the stuff that's produced is already out there and more money comes in, then the price of all those things that exist goes up.
Right. Well, his philosophy is easy come. Oh, wait a minute. That's
no. I'm sorry. No.
So yeah, he's thinking that the people get their easy money, that they're going to go ahead and invest that in something long term.
No, they're not. They're going to spend it on their credit.
Well, that was the other people's plan, was liquidity, speed, flow, and.
Well, they gave it a lot of, of course, what they did, and actually, that's right. That's one of the reasons they bailed out the banks. So the banks could issue loans, and typically when you get a loan from a bank, it's not for spending, it's for investment.
Okay.
Now, of course, I don't consider your home an investment.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm thinking of it as you're building a new deck or something. That's not.
Well, no. But I meant if you go to get a loan to build an apartment complex,
right?
For instance, that's an investment,
right? And
that can pay off. Okay. Anyway, so he's going to do that. I'm going to move on to the next item here.
Okay.
I thought this was interesting. We talked a little bit about this last time on somebody else that did it. Remember, there was somebody, a barber or somebody like that, that they yanked his permit.
Yeah.
So he was out of business.
Yeah.
And now a town up in Massachusetts shuts off the gym's water and power.
Yeah, I saw that.
For defying the coronavirus in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Now, a Massachusetts gym that opened in defiance of the state's regulations, coronavirus regulations, had its water and power cut Wednesday under a court order.
Yes, this is Judge Susan Sullivan. This is out of Oxford. I think that's Massachusetts. And anyway, yeah, this is Prime Fitness Gym. And like you said, they have basically said, oh, you think you've got a business? Sorry, you rely on city water and electricity? Well, we're not giving it to you. Yeah. And by the way, you don't have there are no competitors to us. Yeah. So it's not like you can go get your water from somebody else, have somebody else turn on your power. And here we are. This is another.
Well, even if they did, if they go on here, they said he's already got $7,000 in unpaid fines for refusing to close. So he says the gym had been operating at 50% capacity as it is anyway. Apparently they've been doing some spacing or something like that since mid-May. And of course he's saying that his constitutional rights are being violated. And the question is, I mean, I don't know, you know better than which ones are they?
Well, we talked about this. This is your 9th Amendment right that hasn't been fully realized yet. And the fact is that there is no conceivable way that the founding fathers thought that that they were giving the government power to shut down businesses. No conceivable way. That's so far. 100 years after the founding of the country, that would have been inconceivable.
Right.
And yet here we are, and with the wave of their hand, not just the federal government, but any government, municipalities, governors, at all levels, they feel like, your business is over now. It's just over. And it's amazing to me that more people haven't fought back through the courts. I expected to see just massive lawsuits piling through there, And I guess they're just not creative enough to realize that it's the Ninth Amendment that protects them. I mean, how can you imagine a government's ability to shut down the businesses which literally support the entire government?
Right.
It's
Yeah, you have to realize that where does the government get its money? It's from the profits of business.
Right.
It can come from no place else.
Yeah.
Nothing else. It's the profits of business. If a business is just breaking even, the government gets no money.
Right.
If a business is losing money, the government gets nothing. They get it only out of the profit of human endeavor. And that's the only place to get it. Well, it's interesting. I thought he's operating at his constitutional rights, but a state order bars gyms from opening until phase 2, which begins this week.
okay.
So the 29th.
Or does it?
Well, or does it, right. The shutdowns are intended to help curb the spread of coronavirus. On Tuesday, this Judge Susan Sullivan, who's at Oxford, the town of Oxford, can change locks, board up doors and windows, cut off utilities, and take any other steps that are needed
You have no business
to close.
It's our business.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I remember when I used to have
Anything. I mean, they could post armed guards at the front door
Yeah.
and chain it up.
bulldoze it.
I suppose I don't know about destruction. Be a little tough.
Well, maybe not. Maybe their judge would rule they have some property value in
Yeah.
it. But we'll see, maybe, because this is the kind of fight. If some places try a second shutdown, then we better get a wave, or I just can't believe it. I mean, and I've talked to some restaurateurs. You were there. We were in the restaurant, and we said, "Hey, why don't you sue?" And they said, "Well, we don't want to upset the apple cart.
Right, yeah, that's-
we
yeah.
don't want to."
Yeah.
Our rulers told us we can't do this, so we.
Well, not only that, what they're obviously worried about is you're suing the guys with guns.
Right.
And
Well,
the next thing you know, they're gonna
License.
pull your license. I mean, you sue them, and they're gonna say, "Well, now that's all we need."
that's it.
That's called resisting arrest or something.
Yeah, probably.
That's it.
Probably. It's amazing.
They are. Again, we've talked to two of our favorite restaurants that we started to go to, and the owners in both of them, and both of them said, scared to death.
Right. And I guess I don't know. I had something I was going to say. Well, we'll see.
Okay. Now the other thing, something I'd found out about. Have you heard of the Boogaloo?
Yes.
I had never heard of it.
Well, it's brand new.
Okay, it is. It says here as Trump warns of leftist violence, dangerous threat emerges from the right-wing Boogaloo movement.
Yeah.
The Boogaloo are a more violent anti-government ideology than a formal movement, say those who study.
Top men.
Top men say they can't identify a leader. Although I did see there was some black girl on there that claimed to be the leader of part of the Boogaloo movement.
Okay.
And headquarters or command structure, just loosely affiliated social media pages, ranging from explicitly violent to merely commercial, peddling Boogaloo-themed merchandise. Now, one of the things when they say, I wonder how much of the social thing, if you're on Twitter or Facebook or something, and you're advocating violence on the Boogaloo business, does it get yanked? I mean, do they?
Well, look, to me, when I saw this, and I went and read several stories about it to see, because I was the same thing. I was like, oh, what's this? They all looked like hit pieces. They all looked like somebody was trying to create a boogeyman. Boogaloo, and it even sounds like boogeyman. And the concept was, well, if they're going to call us Antifa and make us a right-wing extremist organization, then we're going to go after them and call them an organization of loosely affiliated people with no leader. And then they can target individual people and say, "Hey, you're part of the Boogaloo thing. We noticed you liked a page."
Well, that's what they've got. That's what they got here.
Right.
It says here. It says here the visibility of Boogaloo supporters at recent protests dressed in trademark Hawaiian shirts and carrying assault rifles.
Right.
Trademark. Boy, I tell you, I have got a whole closet full of as you know.
Yeah.
I've got a whole closet full of Hawaiian shirts.
Right. Well, Hawaiian shirts are great.
Yeah, I know. Well,
I can't believe that they would try to.
Trademark and assault rifles, and had alarmed researchers who for months had warned about the danger that the group posed. Now, Federal prosecutors in California, Texas, Nevada, and Colorado appear to be endorsing, that's not right, those concerns with a series of criminal charges against self-described Boogaloo supporters, whose arrests are often accompanied by seizure of weapons and explosives. So
right. Well, so this is, like I said, this is an attempt to paint the opposition to Antifa as violent extremists with guns and
explosives.
Right. And then therefore when you arrest those people, which they'll, if they get their Democratic prosecutors out there to arrest the people, then they can slap an extra charge on them for being part of the Boogaloo movement or something. Or the most common thing that we're seeing now is, of course, attributing one person's actions or inferring one person's actions from the group action.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. They're saying, well, you're part of this group and therefore you did X.
Yeah.
Like we're white, so we're part of the whole slavery thing. Like, oh, I see how that works, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll see how, if they're able to gain some traction, if some people pick up the Boogaloo. What happened to the Proud Boys? I mean, I guess they disappeared because the one guy pulled the plug. I guess it was Cernovich or one of those agitators from the right.
Well, Cernovich is an attorney who's...
yeah, no, I know.
But he's not, I don't think he's not an agitator.
Well, I use the term loosely.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an activist.
Okay.
And there was another, it might not have been him, but it was somebody on his level that first endorsed the Proud Boys.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And then when it turned violent, they removed their endorsement.
Right.
May have pulled the rug out from the whole organization.
Well, I wonder what the Southern Poverty Law Center has to say about the Boogaloo.
Oh my God! It's probably top red alert flashing on their website right now. If you see these people shoot to kill, kind of a thing. Only in love, though.
Yeah.
And so
peacefully
shoot them. That's right.
That's right. Okay. I thought the next thing that is happening, that is ruining our society here. I saw this. The New York Times, the Washington Post back new diversity efforts after the protests. Apparently there's some protests in the ranks in the people that work for the Washington Post and the New York Times are protesting lack of diversity. So the head people
resign and give up your job to somebody.
Again, no, I'm going to protest. And what's happened is, as we've seen in the past, I remember in the 60s, for instance, when there were protests on campuses, and the provost or the chairman or whatever of the thing would cave to, after they have a sit-in in the president's office or something, and they would cave and give in to their whatever. Well, here's another thing. Apparently, the head of the New York Times and the Washington Post and other are caving in to these things, and so here's what they're doing. The latest action taken by media organizations to address employees protesting racial inequities, as well as coverage, how stories are framed and which stories are told. So they're protesting, they're saying, well, obviously there's a bias in these stories that's anti-racist or is racist or something, and we can't have that. So news organizations have also said charges are in store. Vice, and that's the magazine, said its overhaul its hiring practices. The Los Angeles Times admitted that the paper had a history of feeding the city's racism and said it must recruit, promote, and retain a more diverse staff. So now, what's interesting is the merit goes out the window.
Sure.
We're going to look at you from a diversity standpoint, which, let's face it, is skin color,
right?
As much as anything else.
Yeah.
And so Bon Appetit, another magazine.
Yeah, I would say more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just as much as I mean, it's not like they choose people who are black because they're from the Caribbean and they have a different viewpoint. They choose somebody who's black from the same neighborhood that it's just because they're black or whatever. Look, in the New York Times, I mean, those organizations are horribly racist. They're anti-white. You can see it all through their publications. Now, the fact that they're pushing further in that direction, hey, go for it. as far as I'm concerned. But I'm from my perspective, I'm stopping calling them the New York Times and the New York Post. And I'm going to refer to individual people inside there as making the decisions from now on, because the institution is not what it used to be, and they shouldn't get any of the gravitas that comes with their former.
All the news is fit to print.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Well, as I remember when, before he died, when, what's his name, who wrote the God book, God is Not Great.
Oh, Hitchens?
Yeah, Hitchens. He said or maybe it was Hitchens or P.J. O'Rourke, said the New York Times, when they talk about all the news is fit to print, he said he stopped reading it because they still had the astrology column as news.
Sure, sure. Well, yeah, well, that's people can see that, but to me, it's just
that's one of the big things here. You know, in our Gainesville Sun, which is now a shadow of its former self, the astrology section is twice as big as it used to be.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's more focused on entertainment now, which is, and so the sensationalism here. This is it. This is what we get.
So anyway, the Bon Appetit said it would also improve pay inequities, whatever that means, and prioritize people of color.
Sure.
So as it sought a new top editor that its coverage would center rather than patronize the contribution of marginalized people. So they're going to center on marginalized people now. Bon Appetit. This is a food place.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Post said it will add more than a dozen new editors and reporters on beats that deal with race, including a managing editor for diversity and inclusion. I mean, you know, what are these people thinking? I mean, you talk about...
They've been totally convinced that it's perfectly okay to discriminate against someone based on the color of their skin, as long as the skin is the right color.
Yeah.
It's classic racism. It's shocking that so many people have just blindly accepted that. They're just as far as they're concerned, it's fine because they're making up for the past. And what they just fail to realize is that it wasn't us. We look like them, but it wasn't us.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, now of course, if I decided to look like them and put on blackface, ooh.
Yeah. Well, no, I meant we look like the people from the past.
No, I know, but I mean, I could decide.
Well, actually, there's some pushback now. There's some solidarity group that was like out there painting their face black in solidarity.
In solidarity, okay.
Right. I'm hoping people get over the whole blackface thing. Look, just get over it. It's costume, it's makeup, whatever.
The new rules will include the new roles in the Post. Will include a, quote, race in America writer, and beats on criminal justice, white nationalism, domestic terrorism, and health disparities. Mm-hmm. He'll also have an unconscious bias training. See, you don't know that you've got. Right. So we are going to have a class.
Of course.
We'll
tell you when you're good.
That's right. For managers, add a human resources director devoted to diversity, and release diversity reports to the company.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing people should understand about racism, and this is there's two very, very critical things people need to understand. Outcome does not mean that something was racist. Disparate outcome does not mean, and all you have to do is look at the coronavirus. The coronavirus apparently kills more black people than white people.
Yeah.
I never heard anybody say that right before the coronavirus jumps on you, it shouts the N-word.
Yeah, right.
That's right. No. And if a meteor hit the middle of the United States, it would impact all races differently. That doesn't make the meteor racist. Okay. What controls is people's intent. It's your intent that controls. If I say something to you and you think it's racist, but I didn't intend it to be racist, that's on you. That's not on me.
Right.
Because not my intention. And it's your misinterpretation. Not my misinterpretation, it's your misinterpretation. And it has to be that way. It has to be that way.
You say that. However, look at the people that are, I just saw a picture, of some white girl licking the boots of some black guy.
Whatever.
And I mean, the fact is that they if somebody says they're offended, all of a sudden you're apologizing for something you didn't mean.
Well, look, that's what I'm trying to tell people is that know what your intention is and stick with that as the reality, because that is the reality. That's the reality. Look, if you allow the person who's interpreting it, if you allow it a subjective interpretation of offense, then the person who is allowed to be offended can be offended about everything about you that they don't like, and they do. That red hat that you on is a hate crime. Just because it's a red hat that says "Make America Great," it doesn't even say Trump on it.
Yeah.
It says MAGA on it, and yet you can't wear that because I feel offended. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. You drill down to the intent of the person making the expression. And if the intent of the person making the expression is pure, then that's what it is. And you can say that they're wrong, you can try to convince them or whatever on individual basis, but the rule is that words do not hurt people. And that's why we teach kids sticks and stones rhyme. We teach kids names won't hurt you. Don't hit the person when they call you a name. This is rudimentary stuff that apparently these kids didn't learn in elementary school.
Apparently not.
And we're going to have to reinstitute the education of it all. So,
well, I thought the New York Times said senior leaders would develop a long-term strategy for diversity in the workplace and will deliver a plan to the top of the company.
This reminds me again of the conference on hate that we had at the University of Miami, which I've spoken about several times. When I was in law school, they had a big conference on hate. They invited everybody to come down and express their hate. And that's exactly what happened. And the entire thing deteriorated, 400-person auditorium deteriorated into a shouting match inside of 5 minutes, and they had to cancel the entire thing in 15 minutes. And it was just like, well, of course. Because somebody stood up and said, well, you guys did this. And somebody said, well, no, you did that. I mean, it's just back and forth. And it was like, that's not what you do. Emphasize the positive. You don't drill down. If you have to learn why you're racist, you're not racist. Okay? That's not how it works.
Right.
So if you have to drill down, it's like the Aunt Jemima thing. That woman with the TikTok thing was all, oh, well, Aunt Jemima this, because of this, that name comes from this minstrel act, and she, and all these things that you have to learn about, you have to discover. Well, no, you don't have to do all that stuff. All you have to do is look at Nancy Green and her, what she was able to accomplish. This is Nancy Green. She's Aunt Jemima. She came in after the brand was created, but she was a good cook and became one of their first model. In fact, the first model, I think. And she died in 1923, still working for the company. And she was a millionaire.
I doubt. I wonder about that.
Okay.
I mean, she might have been.
This is Wikipedia.
But I heard. Well, yeah, I know. See,
yeah. Now maybe they already did the translation from the money. That is to say, when we hear millionaire in 1923, we're thinking $20-50 million
right.
in terms of purchasing power today. Maybe, and this is from the English Wikipedia, I think. I
saw someplace that somebody said, well, you know, Snopes or somebody or Wikipedia, they said, you know, that one, I'm not thinking that's right. But like you say, even if she was worth $50,000, that's a millionaire.
Hey, look, if she was still working for the company,
yeah, you're right.
And she was born into slavery. If she was still working at the company when she died,
she was 70-something years old,
at least. So let's see, born in 34, died in 23. She was
in her 90s.
89.
89, yeah.
And so, I mean, come on, man.
She couldn't have been too bad a life.
Right. So in other words, you emphasize the positive, and yet we're going to take all the people of color out of our advertising because if it's racist.
Racist.
And
well, I got a couple things here. There are a couple of things that let's see. Here's the next one. Eskimo pie.
Yeah.
Eskimo pie has dropped a derogatory name, which has been around for 100 years. It's a sandwich. It's like an Oreo, only it's ice cream.
Yeah.
And the company behind Eskimo pie announced that they are going to drop the name, and I don't know what they're going to call it, chocolate-covered vanilla ice cream bar or something,
right,
instead of Eskimo pie. And following the racial injustice protests along with other companies. The head of marketing for the ice cream company said the name is derogatory, and that apparently Eskimo is something that is, I don't know, what's that? I never heard of that.
One of those things where,
well, they tried to get the origin of the word, and apparently one origin that they think is Inuit or whatever, yeah, and it means horrible, rotten meat eater or something, and the other one it means prayerful, soulful, worshipful, or I mean, who knows?
You know what it means? Ice cream.
Yeah, that's what it means.
It means to every kid in the United States, it means tasty ice cream treat.
That's right.
And your name Eskimo is associated with goodness.
That's right.
And pleasure. And a treat and happiness, and there's a little happy Eskimo on there, and it makes you think good things about the Eskimos. So you can take it off if you want, but you're not doing anybody any favors.
Well, it's
especially not the Eskimos.
She said the head of the thing says this move is part of a larger review to ensure our company and brands reflect our people values, whatever that means.
Look, this is just corporate advertising. I guarantee you, as soon as the protest broke, every advertising agency in the country called every one of their big advertisers and says, hey, guess what? You need a new campaign. We're here to help you.
Yeah.
We just need a new infusion of cash, and we'll come up with a new campaign which proves that you're not racist. And we'll have all this
kind of stuff. What do you know, the fact is, for 100 years it's been an Eskimo pie.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, when you go into the store and it looks, you think, well, who makes this? And you know, it's a vanilla filled something or another, whatever they have, whatever it is. Yeah, and you're sitting there. Is that a real Eskimo pie? I don't know.
Made with real Eskimos.
Yeah, with real Eskimos. So anyway, what we're talking about here's some of the following terms that we need to remove.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
White rice.
Okay.
White bread. Cracker.
Cracker Barrel. Yeah.
Cracker Barrel. Got to go. Mud pie.
White
flour. Mud pie.
What's?
I'm not sure exactly what it is, but apparently that's something that they mud is
dark or something.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
a
know.
Color or something.
I don't know. White flour, brown rice, Twinkie.
Lily white flour.
Yeah, lily white. That's right. Twinkie, Indian fry bread.
What's wrong with Twinkie?
I don't know.
Is that a gay thing?
I guess. You know, your little Twinkie. I don't know.
Well, that's like a twink is like a gay word or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we're gone with that. Also, the following name places: the state of Indiana. Bye bye.
Oh yeah.
Indiana. The cities of Indianapolis. Nope. Bye bye. How about Cheyenne, Wyoming? Bye. Gone. Squaw Valley. Skiing? Nope, gone. And fine porcelain dishes shall no longer be known as China. So there is, I mean, when you start to eliminate, and they're doing it here in town.
Well,
there's a school here in town that is known as J.J. Finley.
Yeah.
Somebody did some research and found out this guy was, I don't know what it was, bad. But, you know, there's been literally generations of kids that have, it's like an elementary school thing. That's, nobody knew it.
Sure, all those kids, they grew up the whole time thinking, I'm going to live in the vein of J.J. Finley and be a horrible racist when I grow up.
I tell you, I just...
they imagine these kids making these connections that are just nowhere. But whatever, look, I mean, to me, this whole movement, if you start judging people by their worst quality, there's not going to be anybody left. And so you can take them all down if you want.
Right, exactly.
You can change all the names if you want, but
you'll find something that's really bad.
To me, they're going to run out of steam because, as you just listed, there are too many. It's everywhere. I mean, it's Dutch Boy, paint, St. Pauli girl, beer.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on and on and on. And the whole point is to have a mascot, and the mascot is attractive. The point of the advertising mascot is people like it. It's not that they hate it. It's not that they eat their pancakes and think, thank God for racism and slavery. No. They're thinking, this is my aunt here, my wonderful aunt who made me these pancakes.
Yeah.
You know?
Unbelievable. Well, the other thing, of course, we see that we can talk about here is the apparently there is now a what do you call it, a thing where everybody's pulling down statues,
Yes.
right and left. I mean, every place.
Oh yeah, Francis Scott Key statue.
Francis Scott Key, bye-bye.
Yeah, he was a slave owner.
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
then the Grant statue, that was the big one.
Yeah.
Which was I mean, Grant, who was a slave owner because somebody gave him a slave, and then he freed the slave like a couple years later or something, and then. Let me think. What else did he do? What did Grant
Civil War.
Oh, that's it. Yes, yes. He won the war that freed 3.5 million slaves. So go ahead, tear his statue down. I guess Lincoln's next because
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln, of course, said if he could win the war without freeing a single slave, he'd do it.
He'd do it. Absolutely right.
And then there's the big one though that I've seen, which gets people, is apparently Martin Luther King was not very fond of trans people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So now the question is, how inclusive are you?
Well, that's right. And, you know, you can see it's funny because all over this country, there must be 50,000 roads that have been renamed Martin. Even here, it's in smaller print, but they've renamed it. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard or
I have
whatever.
no problem with that. I have no problem with Juneteenth as a holiday. Look, you want to go for it. I mean, I got chills the first time I read about Juneteenth 15 years ago or whatever it was.
Really?
Yeah, I remember thinking, wow. I mean, I literally felt like a visceral. I mean, it was like, wow, that's so cool, because it was the moment when the troops walked into Texas and said, hey, by the way, you're free. And you have been for like a long time. And I mean, what an amazing, transformative, unlikely moment in the history of any country. And so, great, let's celebrate. And sure, take another holiday, I'll go for that.
I tell you how many holidays. As far as I'm concerned, now, if you got a problem with Martin Luther King, let's eliminate that one and put.
Well, but doesn't Martin Luther King sort of, now it's like that's President's Day or?
No. It's about a week or two earlier.
Yeah, well, but give it a little time. It'll be Leaders' Day or something.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. I don't know if you put Martin Luther King in with Jefferson, that's going to be a problem. I mean, President's Day.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them's anti-trans and one of them's anti-black. So I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
The last thing I have here.
The last thing, okay.
That I have.
Okay.
Is kind of a little light note, and that is people that want to go into outer space.
Ah, okay.
The company is planning a space tourism flight in a high-altitude balloon. Now, this is a monster balloon. It's supposed to, and they're going to have a pressurized capsule with it.
Hell to the no.
Wait a minute. Researchers, armchair astronauts, and even brides and grooms looking for an out-of-this-world, not really.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be able to go up to 100,000 feet, which is only 30 miles. About 30 miles. Now that's not in outer space. You don't.
Yeah.
You have to get up to at least 50 miles, I think, before.
Well, they gotta all have oxygen and stuff.
Oh no, they have all that. It's a sealed capsule.
Oh, okay.
It's
And can you imagine a little breeze that starts whipping around?
No, it's a pressurized capsule. They had a picture of the balloon. The balloon is like 3 times the size of a football field.
Sure.
It's a monster filled with hydrogen. And what happens is,
Hydrogen, okay.
I mean helium.
Oh, okay.
And which is kind of interesting since they ain't making no more helium.
Right.
I mean, that's a bit of a problem. Well,
Yeah.
Anyway, the deal is it goes up at 12 miles an hour. It holds 6 or 8 people plus a pilot or something.
6 or 8 victims.
Yeah, victims. They have to pay $125,000 for the ride. It's like a 6-hour ride, 2 hours up and then 2 hours there and 2 hours back down.
Feels like 2 years.
Well, but they do get. I can tell you from personal experience. I went up in just a regular hot air balloon, and you'd be surprised if you go up about 1 mile. Here in Gainesville, you can see both coasts.
Huh.
You can see both coasts. I mean, and they're 50 miles away.
Yeah.
So you go up 100. You go up.
It's going to be out of this world.
Well, you're going to definitely see the curvature of the
doing
Earth.
it? Is it
Well, it says here. It says space. It's a spaceship Neptune. It's called, operated by a company called Space Perspective, from leased facilities at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Will carry 8 passengers on 6-hour flights. The passenger cabin lifted by a huge hydrogen-filled balloon will climb at 12 miles an hour, 30 miles, and then a slow descent to splashdown. And so I'm sitting there, wait a minute. In the Atlantic Ocean, where a recovery ship will be standing by to secure the cabin and the crew. Yeah. Research payloads are expected to begin in 2021, and first flights carrying passengers.
What do they do if there's rough seas or something, you know?
Again, and of
Storm
course,
coming in.
well, not only that, when you think about it, if you're, I can tell you right now, as you descend, you come through 3 or 4 layers of winds.
Right. Yeah.
Every which way. I remember when we used to go with a friend of mine, I used to chase for him, and they have balloon races, if you can imagine. But what you do, they have this thing, I forget exactly what it's called, grab the key or something. And what they'll do is they'll put the key to a new car on top of a pole up about 50 feet, just up there on the pole. Then everybody goes out in their balloons. They go out for about 5 miles, and then they have to navigate in to the post, and if you can grab the key off the thing, you get the car.
So you have to go up and down to get the right wind direction?
Exactly. And in fact, you have to understand, most hot air balloons always take off at dawn, because when the winds are calm, because it picks up to 2. If you stay up too long, the winds really start to pick up. And if you've ever tried to land a balloon in anything more than about 8 or 10 miles an hour, it drags you along.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like this monster parachute.
Right.
Even after you've pulled the thing to let all the hot air out,
Yeah.
it drags you along the ground and everything. So you have to get up and down before the winds pick up. But you do find that you go up to maybe 1,000 or maybe 2,000 feet, and you figure out where the winds are, and at all different levels, the winds could be exactly the opposite at 1,800 feet that they are at 2,000 feet. And I remember one time it was interesting because there was a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have a fox and hound where one balloon takes off and goes, and then 20 minutes later and 30 minutes later, all the other balloons go and try and catch it. Well, of course, the winds are shifting and everything like that. But I remember this one time, the winds shifted in such a way that the fox balloon came back and landed at where it took off. I mean, you just don't know when you think about it.
Right.
So anyway, my point being that if that's what it is at 2,000 or 3,000 feet, I can tell you when you're coming down from 100,000 feet, you come through the jet stream.
I was going to say, man, and all kinds of temperature variations.
Well, you are in a sealed capsule.
Okay.
Now they've done that before. People have gone up in balloons before and had the everything pressurized, oxygen, the whole deal, just like going up. But when you realize this is twice as high as the Concorde flew, and 3 times higher than the regular jet plane. Still, it could be quite the view. That's for sure, 125,000. But I'm not sure about the splashdown part, because you're going to have this boat out there, this ship out there, and like you say, you're in the Atlantic Ocean, and
wind picks up to 15.
Wind picks up, and this thing is coming down.
Yeah.
And at some point, maybe what they'll do is, I can't think this.
Release the balloon.
Release the balloon.
That's it.
And so the last 20 feet, boom.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. Let me put it this way: you pay your $125,000 or whatever it is,
you
as
get
long
your
as
life insurance.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's something else. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting that.
Wow.
Anyway, that's pretty much what I got.
Okay, well, let's see. We covered a lot of my stuff here. Got a couple things I think maybe. Okay, well, just real quick, Twitter and Facebook are ramping up the banning.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they're marking people for this and that and hate speech. So I've gone over to Gab and to Parler.
Okay.
And now Parler is spelled L-E-R.
Right.
Like to speak. And Gab, they're both basically Twitter ripoffs. And a bunch of people are on there. And it's kind of fun. Like Alex Jones is on one of them.
Yeah.
And so there's...
What's the other one is... what's the one that is the YouTube? It's called this one that Scott Adams is on now, I think.
Oh, you mean locals?
Yeah, locals.
Well,
right.
that one's a pay thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So Gab and Parler are free, just like Twitter, and and they're gaining steam, and they're picking up the people who Twitter is bumping off.
Yeah.
So you get a broader perspective, but a lot of people aren't on there yet, and so we'll see. We'll see how
if it's going to have to hit some magical threshold.
That's right.
And of course, yeah.
And, well, the election is approaching, and I'm thinking that's going to speed things up a bit.
You're right.
As Twitter and Facebook are kicking right-wing people off to try to influence the election.
And some of the ones they're kicking off are just unbelievable. I mean, I'm sitting there. They're
Oh yeah, well, they're inferring the worst from your speech. You said the word black, therefore you're racist.
Well, it was interesting. They kicked Zero Hedge off because of the comment section.
Yes, yeah, well, and I've heard that's sort of a pretext for why. But either way, it doesn't matter. Point is, the market will figure it out. If Twitter kicks those people off, and Facebook bans people or silences people left and right. And I've had plenty of friends silenced and kicked off. And stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and they're not trying to do anything horrible. They'll post a meme or something like that, and so we'll see if they pop up on Gab and Parler. But I just thought I'd let that out there. Oh yeah, like you said, the kids toppling the statues and stuff. The thing about the statues that gets me is that the police are just standing there.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like I said in the beginning of this whole thing, when you give up the police station and you let them burn it, you're going to embolden so many people. The criminals are going to come out of the woodwork, and in fact they have. This weekend we saw 11 people get shot in Minneapolis.
Is that right?
Yeah, and only one of them died. But I've got another shooting, and this is a video that I took of. This is hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious in a very tragic way. But this is a video of the guy who's in charge of the Portland thing, Raz.
Okay.
And he's begging these EMTs to go in and save the guy's life who got shot.
Okay.
And they're standing out there waiting for police permission to go in.
Right.
And he's saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe this!" And he's losing his mind because his autonomous zone is autonomous.
Okay.
And it is an amazing educational thing. And all the comments on this is his video that he posted up, and all the comments are, "This is on you, man. Like, you did this.
Yeah.
You kicked the police out. This is what autonomy is. By the way, where are your internal ambulance people?"
Right. Exactly.
I mean, just like on and on and on, and he's literally incredulous that they won't come in after he's taken over with a gun. I mean, this is the guy who's passing out guns from his trunk, and he's incredulous that they won't come in to help him when he needs help. And so, interesting education.
You talk about a short circuit.
It's amazing, but that's how the guy's going to learn, and all this.
Well, they probably. Let me tell you, if they haven't learned by now.
Well, he's young. I mean, he's a kid. He's 20-something or something.
All right, maybe.
So, and most of the people in there are. They could easily figure out. Say, wait a minute. Maybe these people were trying to be helpful. Okay, let me see. Well, I don't know. I don't play that yet. Let me just see. So anyway, that's. Oh, and then so as predicted, and this is Minneapolis. A little. This is a preview of the day after the George Floyd protest, and there's a little bit of overlap here. But the point is that these areas, the areas without police, are going to deteriorate into lawlessness zones. People are going to step up and fill the power vacuum, and you're going to get shootings, and you're going to get killings. And so this is, I guess, all in the name of George Floyd and whatever. So we'll see where this ends up. And as I've told people from the beginning, there's a way to cut down the police interaction with the people without losing any police protection, and that is simply remove their ability to interact with crimes that do not have victims. Mm-hmm. We have half of our crimes on the books do not have victims. Think about that for a minute. There's nobody complaining, nobody. So you can just cut those all out, and that includes the DUI, like the guy was stopped for at the Wendy's. You know, if they had called private security, and apparently private security is going into Chaz now. So, that's interesting.
Chop?
We chop Chaz, whatever. You don't get to change your name from my perspective that quickly. And it's like,
I think if they changed it once, they change it again.
No, sorry, you're Chaz. You're Chaz for a while.
Okay.
So, all right.
It was Chaz for over a week.
Yeah. You saw where the Florida Gators, no longer using gator bait.
Well, now there's been a backlash on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because the guy who started it's a black guy.
Yeah.
And
so they're wondering, are they going to rescind that?
Well, look, the woman who started Aunt Jemima was a black woman.
Yeah.
You know, or made it popular.
Yeah.
That didn't stop them from pulling her
No.
thing. So no, I think it'll be gone. And I mean, I thought it was a stupid cheer anyway, but it's just amazing how far backwards they'll step. And look, when you start apologizing for shit again that you did not intend to be racist,
Right.
you're done.
Yeah.
Because then now you're apologizing and now you did something. And you have to remember that when an authority comes after you and you say you're sorry, that means you did something wrong.
Yeah.
So you take that out. You just go ahead and admit it. Just go ahead and say you were racist the whole time because that's what is going to be concluded after.
That's
that.
right. Exactly right.
So removal of the paintings of the House speakers. You see that
Yes.
up in the thing.
Yeah, as you know, I guess there's some gallery in the Capitol.
Yeah.
Where they have the portraits of all the House speakers.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because I don't know if there's been as many House speakers as there have been presidents even. You know, some House speakers are there for
go 3 or 4 terms. And stuff.
Yeah, years.
Probably about the same number. But here's what you got to ask yourself: how many of those House speakers that are currently up there are misogynists from today's view?
Yeah.
I mean, could you go back and find statements made by the various House people and former presidents and stuff that something like woman's job is in the kitchen, kind of thing, and you stay home and have the babies. I'm going out to. I mean,
you know, when you think about it, Bill. Let's see, not Clinton, but well, you know, House speakers, right? What they're doing is, of course, there were House speakers before the Civil War,
Yeah.
and a lot of them, had slaves or whatever it was, as you would expect. I mean, they were from the South and so forth, so they want to yank them down, and as if they didn't exist.
Right, well, that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is if you're going to take down people's pictures for their worst quality, then you better start taking them all down because you're going to find whatever you want when you look back through these people's past.
Newt Gingrich, he was, when his wife was dying, he was, I forget what he did.
He divorced her and got remarried or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Clinton fooled around with his wife.
Well, he wasn't a speaker.
Yeah, but still.
President.
But are you condoning that when you have Clinton's picture up? Are you saying that it's perfectly okay to cheat on your wife and do that kind of stuff? I think maybe so. Maybe you ought to tear down all his pictures and everything. So we'll see how far this whole thing goes. Obviously, I'm not being serious when I say that they should do. The Dreamers ruling came out.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes.
And actually, that was pretty good, I think.
Well, I like the outcome
Yeah.
because I like immigration. I think immigration is important and we need it. In fact, we should have a lot more of it. But the way that the court did it was, I'm going to go with illegal.
Okay.
Yeah, they I mean, not technically because they can do what they want. They make the law. But they did. They made the law in this case. They crossed the line. They were activists. They read meaning and intent into the words that were not there decades ago. Yeah, they just pulled it straight out. And sure, you can say it was for the better. But just
I think a lot of it when you think about it though, even as somebody once said, even the Supreme Court justices read the morning paper.
Yes.
And so when you see, as we've seen in the past, when they make a ruling, for instance, and it is so unbelievably upsetting, I mean, it shatters everything. You think, well,
it was Sandra Day O'Connor, I believe, who made that allegation the first. That is to say, who first put forward the proposition that the response of the public may be a constitutional reason for doing something or not doing something. I do not buy that concept.
I'm not much on it either. Although I will say this: that what happened was with Oliver, what's his name, Wendell Holmes, when they had the one when the people were the Seventh-day Adventists or whatever going to door, and they said some city banned it, and I forget exactly what happened, but the court sort of upheld it, and then like 2 weeks later they came running back and they undid it what they had done. They rescinded their ruling very quickly because of the chaos that it was. This is like in the 30s.
Yeah. Well, look, it's come up a few times in different cases. I think it was Sandra Day in the Roe v. Wade thing when it first happened, But I do not find that to be a firm constitutional basis of authority. Like how people are going to react, that's not a thing. It has to come from what the words are, what's written down.
Well,
there.
this is one of the things that I've always said, that this country would have been way better off if, especially in times of war, if they had adhered to the Constitution.
Yes, of course.
And we wouldn't have been in those wars.
Yes.
Basically, we wouldn't have been there.
The lack of funding would have prevented us from going into the wars.
Absolutely.
And as we know, once we get into the wars, they make all kinds of changes which are anti-constitutional.
Right.
And
I mean, Lincoln was famous for that.
Well, he was the worst at it.
He was,
He
really took control. But so, you know, and of course the people, in patriotic people go along with it. You know, you're not a patriot if you don't go along with this or something. And
it's just a silly thing. But anyway, that's that ruling. One nice thing: New York State Police will now wear body cams in New York.
Okay.
Ruling from the governor.
Okay.
And apparently, de Blasio came out and said, if there's somebody shot and killed, and then the police have to release the videos within 30 days, the body camera videos.
Okay.
So progress on that front in real ways. That's a real advancement in the safety of people as body cams. Every police officer should have a body cam. If you have a gun, you should get a body cam. It should be on your damn gun.
Right. Yeah.
All right. One thing I just want to say real quick, and I hate to tell people this, but there's a decent chance that Chauvin will get off. I still maintain that because of the fentanyl and meth in the guy's system. Nobody can prove, I don't think, beyond a reasonable doubt that Floyd didn't have a heart attack. Now you can say it was induced by the arrest, but if the arrest is not illegal, that is to say, if they're following procedures in the arrest and that induces a heart attack, then there's no crime. Mm-hmm. And so that's what, of course, the defense is going to try to claim.
Sure.
And we'll see. But I do not think he has as good a case as the officer in Atlanta who shot the guy, Rashad Brooks, running away from the DUI scene.
Uh-huh.
I think that guy should go down for something.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a couple of things people might not be realizing. Tasers only have one or at most two shots.
Okay.
It's usually a one-shot instrument. A few models have two shots. So once
that's if they have the little stringing spiky
right,
thing.
which
there's the other kind you have to actually put on the body.
That's right, but that's not the kind he had. He had the shooty kind.
The shooty.
So once he shoots at the police officer, then the question becomes, what is the danger at that point? And he had already shot towards the police officer with the taser when he got shot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very quick. I mean, and that's what the defense is going to argue, is split second, same time in contemporaneous, whatever it is. But the defense for that police officer is going to have to claim that the officer was in fear of his life, and I don't see it. The guy's running away from you. He's drunk. He's going to get about 2 blocks before he passes out. All you got to do is go back and get your car and start doing a slow drive around the block. You're going to see him sitting down next to somewhere. You can pick him
Throwing
up. Yeah, exactly. And he'll be out of it. He'll be exhausted at that point, so he won't be able to beat you up anymore. He'll run some more. You chase him some more. Until the guys. There's so many different ways they could have stopped that guy aside from shooting him. I think that guy goes down. Now they also charged his partner, which I think is outrageous. That's ridiculous. I mean, the partner had no idea that the other guy was going to shoot him at that point. And if he hadn't shot him, then it would have been a perfectly good arrest. If they had just chased him down right then and tackled him and beat the tar out of him or whatever and stuffed him in the car, nobody would even have, Wendy's would still be there, everything, no problem at all. And so there's no way that they can get away with that, charging the other guy, unless they're talking about something that happened after the shooting, which was not on the video, which is actually what I'm speculating. I think that there's some video of one of the cops going up and I guess either kicking or rolling the guy over with his foot to see what his condition is and that kind of stuff. And they didn't administer aid right away.
No, they didn't.
And so that is what I'm anticipating the charges on second officer from. Like it's an aggravated assault because you didn't render aid.
Okay. That
kind of a thing. And if they want to do that, okay, maybe so. But we'll see. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Well, it'll be interesting if the guy from Floyd gets off, what the riots are going to look like.
Oh my God! I mean, I don't think he's going to get off because I think even a jury will will probably see that as something that they're not used to, even though it's totally
I
common.
tell you, if the defense is any good, they're gonna
I agree. If the
they're
defense
gonna
is
they're
good,
gonna have pictures of this particular type of takedown. They're gonna have 100 different pictures.
Yeah.
This is in Oregon. This is in Minnesota. This
and
is
you've got them since this whole thing started.
Right.
You know, I've got them on video right
right. I mean, you do that. You
And
show
then-
that to the jury.
And then you show fentanyl deaths
Yep.
statistics.
Oh, yeah.
And all over the place, and then you show his medical conditions, and you say, is it even possible that he died from one of these other things?
Oh yeah, no,
And
I mean,
the answer is, yeah.
I think you're right about. I mean, well, I don't know. I think there's a very good chance he's going to get off.
Yeah, I do too.
So
And
we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not going to know for what, 6 months?
Oh, at least
Yeah.
probably a year.
Okay.
I would say. All right, that's all I got.
We're out of time.
Hey, Kenny, happy Father's Day to you too. Yeah, so as we go out here, I'll tell you about two other little quick things. The Cannonball Run.
Yes,
Somebody set a new solo record.
really.
Yeah, 25 hours, 55 minutes.
Jesus, Jack was 33 hours or something.
Yeah. So this guy, he rented a Mustang and did that. If you can believe
Jesus,
that.
he must have had that all mapped out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you know he had people all along the way.
Yeah, must have.
You
yeah.
know, that's what they do. They have people everywhere.
To stop traffic.
Well, not only to stop traffic, but to
Warn you.
cops and
Yeah.
everything.
You
Yeah,
send, you send Smokey out front, or the bandit.
yes,
Send
you're
the
right.
bandit. All right. Oh, here, I wanted to show you this real quick. This is an unemployment line. Look at the length of this thing.
What are they?
They're waiting to talk to somebody about unemployment.
Oh, wow. They're not waiting for jobs. They're waiting for what? Money?
I don't know.
Unemployment money?
But whatever they're waiting for, it's an 8-hour wait.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so, I mean, unbelievable.
Boy, that's when you, that's of course you probably have no money, but that's when you hire somebody to stand in line
Oh,
for you.
man. Yeah, exactly. All right. These tracks brought to you by Kevin McLeod. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it. Oh, I forgot my science update. Honeywell may have a new quantum computer. They say they've achieved 64, but they don't have any units on that.
Yeah.
But apparently it's in the hundreds of petaflops.
Wow.
And it only takes 14 kilowatts of, 14 kilowatts of power versus like the Summit machine, which there's a hard state, a normal machine, it does 280 petaflops, but it takes 14 megawatts of power to run the thing.
Niagara Falls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, I'm Counselor Curtis. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show. Join us next week or in 3 days.
Wednesday.
That's right, on the 24th. Thanks for being here, Kenny. Happy Father's Day to you too. Hope you're doing well. We'll see you soon. Oops.